Dr. Jessica Miller's hand trembled slightly as she lowered her coffee cup to the polished mahogany table of the United Nations Security Council chamber. The hologram floating above the central podium cast an ethereal blue glow across the faces of Earth's most powerful leaders, all of whom sat in stunned silence. The alien representative, Supreme Commander Nexus, stood nearly 9 feet tall. His crystalline skin refracted light in impossible patterns, creating miniature rainbows that danced across the walls. But it wasn't his otherworldly appearance that held Dr. Miller's attention. It was the subtle fluctuations in the energy field surrounding him. "Your species," Nexus announced, his translated voice carrying artificial perfection, "has been deemed suitable for integration into the galactic hegemony. You will submit to Imperial authority within one standard galactic rotation, or face immediate extinction." He paused, perhaps expecting gasps of horror or immediate capitulation. "This is a generous offer, considering your primitive technological state." Jessica's fingers tightened around her tablet as she studied the readings. Every gesture Nexus made, every shift in his stance, created minute distortions in the hologram's projection field. To everyone else, these might appear as simple visual artifacts, but to her trained eye, they revealed something far more interesting. "Supreme Commander," Secretary General Harrison spoke, his voice steady despite the circumstances. "You're asking us to surrender our sovereignty without any discussion of terms or conditions." Nexus's crystalline features shifted in what might have been amusement. "Terms. Conditions. You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. Your species has barely mastered basic spaceflight. Your weapons are primitive projectiles and crude atomic devices. We detected no energy shields around your planet, no quantum communications network, not even basic gravitational manipulation technology." As the alien spoke, Dr. Miller's tablet continued collecting data. The energy fluctuations followed a pattern, regular, predictable, almost like a heartbeat. She quickly typed a message to her colleague, Dr. Robert Hayes, watching his eyes widen as he received it. Perhaps Jessica found herself speaking before she fully intended to. "We could request time to prepare the proper documentation for submission, to ensure a smooth integration into the hegemony systems." The Security Council members turned to stare at her. She wasn't supposed to speak. She was only present as a scientific advisor. But Nexus' reaction confirmed her suspicions. The energy field around him rippled with a pattern she now recognized as surprise. Documentation. The alien commander seemed to find this amusing. "Your species truly is primitive if you believe bureaucracy matters in this situation. But very well, we are not unreasonable. You have one standard galactic month to prepare your documentation." The last word dripped with condescension. As the hologram flickered out, chaos erupted in the chamber. Nations began arguing about military responses, about surrender terms, about evacuation plans. But Jessica was already moving, pulling Secretary General Harrison aside. "Sir," she said urgently, "their technology isn't as advanced as they want us to believe. The energy field surrounding their ambassador, it's not just for show. It's a necessity. Their entire technological base depends on maintaining specific quantum-level harmonics, and those harmonics have patterns, weaknesses." Harrison's eyes narrowed. "Can we exploit these weaknesses? Given time to study them?" "Yes, but more importantly," she glanced at her tablet, double-checking her calculations. "Everything about their technology suggests a species that evolved in an environment of absolute order. They've built their entire civilization on predictable patterns and unchanging rules. They're not prepared for human chaos." The Secretary General was silent for a long moment, studying her face. "How much time do you need?" "They gave us a month. That's more than enough." Jessica allowed herself a small smile. "They think we'll spend it preparing surrender documents. Instead, we'll give them something they never expected. Proof that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. It's our ability to understand our enemies better than they understand themselves." As she left the chamber, Jessica's mind was already racing with possibilities. The Empire thought they were being generous, giving Earth time to accept its fate. Instead, they had just made their first and greatest mistake. They had given humanity exactly what it needed: a challenge and a deadline. The Empire was about to learn why you should never underestimate a species that had turned the art of warfare into a science. Colonel James Thompson stood before the curved wall of displays in the Rocky Mountain Complex's command center, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of dozens of screens. Each monitor showed a different facet of humanity's greatest deception: the appearance of doing absolutely nothing. "Sir," Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez called from her station. The Imperial cruiser over Beijing just completed another scan. They're still buying it. Social media traffic analysis shows they're particularly interested in the cat videos. Thompson allowed himself a small smile. Those cat videos contained compressed data packets hidden in their metadata, coordinating resistance efforts across the globe. The Empire's AI systems were watching millions of humans sharing pet pictures, never realizing they were observing the most sophisticated military communication network ever devised. Update from the Pacific Fleet. Another operator announced. The Nautilus has completed its analysis of the Imperial shield frequencies. Dr. Miller's theory was correct. Their harmonics follow the Fibonacci sequence. 3 miles beneath the Pacific Ocean, specially modified submarines tracked every energy pulse from the alien ships. The Empire thought Earth's oceans were empty space, useful only for collecting water samples. They didn't realize humanity had turned the deep blue into the perfect observation post. Thompson's secure tablet buzzed. A message from Dr. Miller. "Thunder, you need to see this. Lab 7, immediately." The colonel made his way through the underground complex's winding corridors, passing hundreds of personnel going about their tasks with deliberate normalcy. Even here, underground, they maintained the illusion. Every Imperial scan would show normal power usage, normal heat signatures, normal human activity. Dr. Miller's lab was a maze of equipment that would have looked primitive to Imperial eyes. Cathode ray tubes sat next to quantum sensors. Analog dials mixed with holographic displays. This deliberate technological chaos was humanity's camouflage. "Look at this," Jessica said without preamble as Thompson entered, pointing to a seemingly simple wave pattern on her screen. "Every Imperial ship produces this exact energy signature. It's perfect, too perfect." Thompson studied the pattern. They're using the same shield frequency across their entire fleet. Not just the same frequency. Jessica's eyes sparkled with the excitement of discovery. The same exact pattern, down to the quantum level. Their entire technological philosophy is based on perfect replication. No variation, no adaptation, no chaos. And that's their weakness. That's their critical weakness. She pulled up another display. Human technology is messy. We have redundancies, variations, backups of backups. Our systems expect failure and adapt. Theirs expect perfection and shatter when they don't get it. Thompson watched as she demonstrated the principle with a simple experiment. A small energy field, similar to the Imperial shields but generated by human technology, flickered and shifted when hit with interference. It was ugly, inefficient, but it survived. The perfectly replicated Imperial version collapsed completely under the same stress. How long until we can weaponize this? We already have. Jessica gestured to a row of devices that looked more like old radio equipment than advanced weapons. These can disrupt their shield harmonics with focused electromagnetic pulses. They'll never see it coming because they're not looking for something this primitive. Thompson's tablet buzzed again. A message from Major Amanda Reynolds' cyber warfare team. Operation Digital Harvest complete. You won't believe what their networks revealed. Keep working, Thompson told Jessica. I'll coordinate with Cyber Command too. A priority alert cut him off. One of the Imperial ships was moving out of position, descending toward Moscow. Sir, Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice came through his earpiece. They're scanning unusual energy readings from the Russian quantum research facility. Right on schedule, Thompson muttered. Send the prepared response through the usual channels. Within minutes, social media exploded with posts about a failed Russian power plant test, complete with carefully crafted sensor data for the Imperial ships to analyze. The alien vessel resumed its original position, satisfied with the explanation. 3 weeks left, Jessica said quietly, watching the ships retreat on her monitors. Will we be ready? Thompson thought about the submarines tracking shield frequencies, the cyber teams infiltrating Imperial networks, the billions of humans participating in the greatest deception in history without even knowing it. He thought about how the Empire saw them. Primitive, disorganized, chaos given form. Oh, we'll be ready, he said. And when they realize what that chaos really means, it'll be too late. Because they made the mistake of giving humanity the one thing we've always used better than anyone else in history. What's that? Time to prepare for war. Supreme Commander Nexus initiated the attack at dawn, Greenwich Mean Time. 30 Imperial warships descended through Earth's atmosphere in perfect formation, their crystalline hulls gleaming in the morning sun. The Empire's tactical computers predicted total planetary submission within 6 hours. They were wrong. The first sign that something was amiss came when Imperial sensors detected a slight irregularity in their shield harmonics. Nothing significant, just a 0.1% deviation from optimal frequency. The fleet's AI dismissed it as atmospheric interference. Dr. Jessica Miller watched from the Rocky Mountain complex as the Empire's perfect formation entered the stratosphere. All stations, execute Operation Dragon's Teeth. Authorization code, Prometheus. Across the globe, seemingly innocent civilian infrastructure awakened. Weather satellites adjusted their positions by millimeters. Deep-sea communication cables pulsed with carefully calibrated electromagnetic frequencies. Even the thousands of pieces of space debris that the Empire had dismissed as primitive trash began moving in subtle, precise patterns. They're within the primary engagement zone, Colonel Thompson announced, his voice steady. All units, commence Phase 1. The Empire's first clue that something was catastrophically wrong came when Shield Generator 7 on the lead vessel failed. Not with the expected explosive overload that primitive nuclear weapons might cause, but with a gentle, almost apologetic whine. Impossible, Nexus muttered, watching the shield strength indicators across his fleet begin to fluctuate. Their technology is too primitive for this level of... He never finished the sentence. Earth's stratosphere came alive with a web of intersecting energy beams, each one precisely tuned to the frequencies Dr. Miller had discovered. The Empire's perfect shields, designed to be impenetrable, were being unraveled by their own harmonic patterns. Launch fighters, Nexus commanded. Eliminate their weapon platforms. But there were no platforms to eliminate. The energy web emanated from thousands of points across the planet's surface. Weather stations, satellite dishes, even civilian radio telescopes. The Empire had dismissed each piece as primitive technology, never realizing they were looking at components of the most distributed weapons system ever created. In the Rocky Mountain complex, Jessica's fingers flew across her console. Shield disruption at 60% and climbing. Colonel, they're launching fighters. Thompson nodded. Execute Phase 2. Let's show them why they shouldn't have ignored all that space debris. The cloud of orbital debris that had accumulated around Earth over decades of space exploration suddenly revealed its true nature. Thousands of pieces, each one precisely positioned over the past month, began broadcasting electromagnetic pulses tuned to Imperial fighter frequencies. Imperial pilots found their neural links disrupted, their targeting systems compromised. The fighters, designed to operate in perfect synchronization, fell into chaos as each piece of debris affected them differently. Human unpredictability had turned the Empire's greatest strength, their standardization, into a critical weakness. Impossible, Nexus repeated, watching his fighter squadron scatter. Your species, you're not capable of this level of coordination. As if in answer, every screen on his bridge lit up with the same message, transmitted in perfect Imperial script. Your mistake wasn't in underestimating our technology. It was in underestimating our creativity. The message was signed, Humanity. In the command center, Thompson watched as the Imperial fleet's perfect formation dissolved into disorder. Launch countermeasures. Show them what those primitive projectiles can do when enhanced with their own technology. Earth's response was devastating in its elegance. Railguns, modified with Imperial gravitational technology, launched projectiles at speeds the Empire had deemed impossible for primitive weapons. Each shot was aimed not to destroy, but to disrupt the quantum-level harmonics that the Imperial ships depended on. "Sir," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, "the enemy fleet is attempting to regroup at high orbit. Their shield strength is down to 30% across all vessels." Jessica looked up from her station, a glint of satisfaction in her eyes. "Should we show them what else we learned during our preparation time?" Thompson allowed himself a grim smile. "Send in the modified satellites. Let's show the Empire why humanity's greatest weapon has always been our ability to turn our enemy's strength against them." As the battle unfolded above Earth's atmosphere, Supreme Commander Nexus faced a terrible realization. They hadn't given humanity time to prepare surrender documents. They'd given humanity time to study, analyze, and completely counter Imperial technology. And now, watching his perfect fleet fall into disarray, he understood the truth that would shake the Empire to its foundations. In their arrogance, they had mistaken humanity's technological differences for weakness, never realizing that those very differences were about to change the face of warfare forever. Major Amanda Reynolds sat in the depths of the Pentagon Cyber Command Center, her fingers dancing across 3 holographic keyboards simultaneously. Around her, 24 of Earth's best hackers worked with focused intensity, their screens flickering with Imperial code structures. Ghost leaped to Thunder Base. She spoke into her neural interface. "Phase 3 is ready. You won't believe what we found in their network architecture." Colonel Thompson's voice crackled through her earpiece. "Give me good news, Ghost." "Better than good." Amanda allowed herself a small grin. "Their entire command and control network runs on perfect quantum encryption. No backdoors, no weaknesses, and that's exactly what makes it vulnerable." The Empire's digital architecture was a marvel of engineering. Every packet of data followed the same routes, every encryption key generated by the same quantum algorithms. It was a system designed to be impenetrable through its sheer mathematical perfection. They never considered that perfection itself could be a weakness, Amanda explained, pulling up a visualization of the Imperial network. "Their system is so rigidly structured that any anomaly stands out like a spotlight. So we're not going to hack it. We're going to haunt it." Dr. Miller's voice joined the conversation. "The quantum harmonics principle applies to their digital systems too." "Exactly." Amanda launched the first phase of her attack. "They designed their networks to reject chaos. So we're going to give them so much chaos that the only way to maintain stability is to accept our code as part of their natural order." Across the Imperial fleet, small anomalies began appearing in non-critical systems. Environmental controls fluctuated by 0.01 degrees. Artificial gravity shifted by imperceptible amounts. Navigation data showed stars slightly out of position. "Their systems are trying to correct the anomalies," one of Amanda's team reported. "Just like we predicted, they're dedicating processing power to resolution." "Now for the real fun," Amanda said, initiating the second stage of Operation Digital Apocalypse. "Let's show them why humanity's primitive programming is about to become their worst nightmare." The beauty of the attack lay in its apparent randomness. Imperial systems, designed to maintain perfect order, couldn't distinguish between legitimate corrections and the cascading waves of false data now flooding their networks. Every attempt to restore perfection only created more opportunities for infiltration. "Ghost lead." Thompson's voice was tense. "We're seeing strange behavior in the Imperial fleet. What did you do?" Amanda watched as her team's code worked its way through the enemy systems. "We turned their perfection against them. Their ships are receiving phantom orders, sensor ghosts, false targeting data. But here's the beautiful part. They can't shut down the system to clear it. Their entire technology stack depends on maintaining quantum coherence. In space, the Imperial fleet's formation began to dissolve. Ships responded to orders never given, their crews unable to distinguish real commands from the phantom signals pervading their networks. The Empire's rigid command structure, faced with overwhelming chaos, started to fracture. They're trying to isolate their command channels, one of Amanda's analysts reported, switching to backup frequencies. Let them, Amanda said, her fingers flying across the holographic keys. Every system they isolate creates another pattern we can exploit. Humans adapted to unreliable technology centuries ago. We built redundancy into everything. They never had to. Dr. Miller's voice came through again, excited. Major, we're seeing energy fluctuations in their shield harmonics. The digital disruption is affecting their defensive systems. That's because they never truly separated their networks, Amanda explained. Perfect integration, remember. Every system interconnected in perfect harmony. And now that harmony is their death sentence, Thompson finished. Amanda launched the final phase of her attack. Throughout the Imperial fleet, navigation systems developed glitches that led ships into pre-planned ambush zones. Communication arrays broadcast phantom threats that scattered fighter squadrons. Even life support systems began reporting non-existent failures, forcing crews to redirect power from weapons to maintain atmosphere. Sir, Amanda reported, watching the chaos unfold across her screens, I think it's time for Phase 4. The Empire's about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon was never our technology. It was our understanding of its limitations. As the Imperial fleet struggled to regain control of their networks, Amanda allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The Empire had dismissed Earth's digital technology as primitive, never realizing that those imperfections had taught humanity the one lesson their perfect systems never could: how to thrive in chaos. Dr. Jessica Miller stood in the heart of Mount Cheyenne's advanced research facility, surrounded by a mix of stolen Imperial technology and human innovations. Holographic displays showed real-time battle data from orbit, where the Empire's fleet struggled against weapons they'd never imagined possible. Power up the Prometheus core, she ordered, watching as her team initiated the startup sequence. The massive device before them hummed to life, its crystalline structure pulsing with an inner light that seemed to bend reality around it. Core stabilization at 98%, Dr. Robert Hayes reported from his station. Better than the Empire's own designs. Jessica nodded, pride evident in her expression. That's because they never thought to introduce controlled imperfection into the quantum matrix. They built everything to be perfect. We built it to be resilient. The Prometheus Protocol represented humanity's greatest technological leap. The ability to not just use Imperial technology, but to improve upon it. Where the Empire sought perfection, humanity embraced controlled chaos, introducing variables that made their systems adaptable rather than rigid. Dr. Miller, a young researcher, burst into the lab, tablet in hand. The captured Imperial cruiser. We've cracked their power core configuration. Jessica moved to a different console, examining the data. The Empire's energy systems were marvels of engineering, capable of powering entire cities, but they required massive installations to maintain quantum stability, or at least that's what the Empire believed. They overcomplicated it, she muttered, fingers flying across the holographic interface. All these redundancies, all these fail-safes, and they never realized the simple solution. Colonel Thompson's voice came through the lab's comm system. Miller, please tell me you have good news. The Empire's bringing in reinforcements. Better than good, Jessica replied, uploading her calculations. We've miniaturized their power core technology. What used to take up a city block can now fit in a backpack. Send in the Mark II combat suits. Across the battlefield, Earth's soldiers deployed in powered armor that seemed to flicker between dimensions. The suits, reverse-engineered from Imperial shield technology and powered by miniaturized quantum cores, made their wearers nearly invincible. Impossible. The voice of Supreme Commander Nexus boomed across all frequencies. "You cannot have mastered our technology so quickly." "Sir," one of Jessica's technicians called out, "they're trying to remotely deactivate our cores using their override protocols." Jessica smiled. "Let them try. Show them what happens when you try to impose perfect order on deliberately imperfect systems." The Empire's deactivation signal washed over Earth's forces harmlessly. Their technology, modified with controlled uncertainty principles, simply adapted around the attack. It was like trying to use a key made for a perfect lock on one that constantly changed its tumbler configuration. "Launch the modified satellites," Jessica ordered. "Let's show them what happens when you combine human ingenuity with Imperial tech." In orbit, a new type of weapon platform emerged from Earth's atmosphere. They looked crude by Imperial standards, collections of mismatched technology and improvised solutions. But these satellites carried power cores that shouldn't have been possible, shield configurations that defied Imperial doctrine, and weapons that combined human unpredictability with alien precision. "Dr. Miller," Thompson's voice was filled with satisfaction, "the enemy fleet is falling back. Their shields can't handle our modulated energy weapons." Jessica watched the battle displays, seeing Imperial ships retreat from weapons they couldn't understand. Earth's defenders weren't just using alien technology. They were evolving it, changing it, making it into something new and terrifying to the Empire's rigid military doctrine. "They gave us their technology thinking we'd never understand it," she said, initiating the final phase of the Prometheus Protocol. "They never realized that understanding was only the beginning. Humanity's greatest strength isn't in copying, it's in innovation." Around the planet, more hybrid human Imperial technologies activated. Force fields that could change shape at will, quantum communications that used chaos theory to prevent interception, weapons that combined primitive kinetic force with advanced energy manipulation. "Send word to all commands," Jessica ordered. "Prometheus Protocol is fully operational. Show the Empire why they should have paid more attention to how humans improve upon everything we touch." The Empire had thought giving humanity access to their technology would only prove our inferiority. Instead, they had given us the tools to demonstrate why adaptation would always triumph over perfection. Lieutenant Michael Silver-Tongue Carter stood before the wall of screens in the Cultural Warfare Division, watching as his carefully crafted message campaign unfolded across Imperial communication channels. Each screen showed different footage. Human soldiers rescuing Imperial crew members from damaged ships, Earth doctors treating injured alien warriors, children offering crystalline flowers to confused Imperial guards. "Status report on Operation Empathy," he commanded, his voice carrying the smooth confidence that had earned him his call sign. "Sir," Communications Officer Emily Chen responded, "the footage of the Moscow rescue is trending across 17 Imperial colony worlds. Their sensors can't block it fast enough. Every time they do, it appears on 3 more channels." Michael nodded, studying the latest psychological analysis of Imperial social media responses. The Empire's rigid society had never encountered anything like Earth's information warfare tactics. They could handle propaganda, but genuine, unscripted moments of human compassion, those were proving devastating to Imperial morale. "Launch Phase 2, he ordered. "Show them what they're really fighting against." Across the Empire's communication networks, new streams began appearing. A classical orchestra performing an Imperial anthem, seamlessly blended with human melodies. Ancient Earth art displayed alongside Imperial masterpieces, highlighting the beautiful chaos of human creativity. Scientists from both worlds collaborating, their differences creating breakthroughs neither could achieve alone. "Sir," Emily's voice carried excitement, "we're detecting unauthorized broadcasts from Imperial civilian networks. They're sharing our content themselves." Michael moved to her station, examining the data. The Empire's citizens, raised on a diet of perfect order and controlled information, were becoming fascinated by human unpredictability. Every demonstration of Earth's cultural diversity sparked thousands of discussions about the nature of progress and civilization. His secure comm crackled. "Silver Tongue, this is Thunder. The Imperial Command is trying to crack down on the broadcasts. They're claiming it's all fabricated." "Let them," Michael replied, a smile playing at his lips. "Watch what happens when you tell people not to look at something, especially something as intriguing as a species that turns combat into art and chaos into progress." On his command, the next wave of content began. Footage from university campuses where Imperial deserters were teaching alongside human professors, exploring new ways of thinking that combined both species' perspectives. Clips of Imperial citizens marveling at human art galleries, their crystalline features reflecting the chaotic beauty of abstract expressionism. "Sir," another analyst called out, "Imperial military channels are showing increased chatter. Their troops are asking questions about why they're fighting us." This was what Michael had been waiting for. Launch the philosophy protocols. Across every Imperial channel, questions began appearing. Simple at first, then increasingly complex. Why does perfect order preclude evolution? Can a society advance without chaos? What if imperfection isn't a flaw, but a feature? Their command structure is trying to suppress the discussions, Emily reported, but it's having the opposite effect. The more they try to enforce order, the more their people are drawn to our chaos. Michael watched as the Empire's rigid social structure began to crack under the weight of simple human ideas. Their citizens, presented with evidence that imperfection could lead to advancement, were beginning to question millennia of doctrine. "Thunder base to Silver Tongue." Colonel Thompson's voice carried a note of amazement. "We're receiving surrender requests from Imperial ships. Not just individuals. Entire crews are requesting asylum. Send them the welcome package," Michael ordered. "Show them we're not just accepting surrenders, we're offering partnerships." The welcome package was perhaps his masterpiece, a comprehensive demonstration of how human and Imperial approaches could work together, creating something greater than either could achieve alone. Perfect Imperial technology enhanced by human creativity. Rigid Imperial logic tempered by human intuition. "Sir," Emily's voice was quiet but carried immense satisfaction. "The latest analysis suggests that Imperial social media is now overwhelmingly in favor of peaceful contact with Earth. Their own citizens are demanding an end to the conflict." Michael allowed himself a moment of pride. The Empire had expected to face primitive weapons and inferior technology. Instead, they had encountered something far more dangerous, ideas that could transform their society from within. "Send the final message," he commanded. "Show them why humanity's greatest weapon was never our technology or our tactics. It was our ability to turn enemies into friends." The Empire had come to conquer a primitive world. Instead, they found themselves being peacefully conquered by the one force they had never learned to resist. The irresistible appeal of human chaos, creativity, and change. Admiral Jennifer Phoenix Martinez stood on the bridge of the U.S. Hyperion, Earth's first hybrid warship, watching as Imperial battle doctrine crumbled before her eyes. The massive viewscreen showed dozens of Imperial vessels attempting to maintain their perfect geometric formations, and failing spectacularly. "Status report," she commanded, her voice carrying the authority that had made her legendary among both human and Imperial forces. "Admiral," her XO commander David Foster responded, "the enemy fleet is still trying to execute standard containment protocols. They haven't realized that their own tactical database is working against them." Jennifer allowed herself a small smile. The Empire's entire military strategy was based on a complex series of pre-planned responses, each one mathematically perfect. But humanity had turned that perfection into a trap. "Launch the Chaos Squadron," she ordered. "Let's show them why predictability in warfare is a fatal flaw." The Hyperion's hangar bay opened, releasing a wing of fighters that would have given Imperial engineers nightmares. Each craft was different, some incorporating Imperial technology, others purely human designs, and many a hybrid of both. They moved in patterns that defied traditional combat algorithms, their very unpredictability making them almost impossible to target. Phoenix Base to Admiral. Dr. Miller's voice came through the command channel. The Empire's Central Command AI is attempting to compensate for our irregular attack patterns. They're trying to discover the underlying logic. There isn't any, Jennifer replied, watching her fighters wreak havoc among the Imperial formations. That's the beauty of it. Each pilot is improvising, creating their own chaos. You can't predict what hasn't been planned. On the tactical display, Imperial ships struggle to respond. Their combat computers, designed to counter logical attack patterns, were overwhelmed by the sheer randomness of human combat styles. Ships firing at random intervals, fighters executing maneuvers that violated standard combat doctrine, electronic warfare that followed no recognizable pattern. Imperial flagship is broadcasting, Commander Foster announced. Supreme Commander Nexus is requesting direct communication. Jennifer nodded. Put him through. Let's hear their realization. The crystalline face of Nexus appeared on the main screen, his perfect features showing something the Empire had never planned for. Uncertainty. Admiral Martinez. He began, his voice lacking its usual confidence. Your tactics, they defy all known principles of space combat. Our analyses show no consistent pattern, no underlying strategy. That's because we're not following a strategy, Jennifer replied. We're adapting. Every ship, every pilot, every weapon is operating independently within a framework of organized chaos. You can't predict us because we're not trying to be predictable. She watched understanding dawn in his crystalline eyes. Your species, you turned your greatest weakness into your most powerful weapon. No, Commander, Jennifer corrected him. You assumed our differences were weaknesses. That was your mistake. Our chaos, our creativity, our ability to improvise, these were never flaws. They were the evolutionary advantages that let us survive on a planet that tried to kill us every day. Around them, the battle continued to shift. Imperial ships, attempting to maintain their rigid formations, found themselves outmaneuvered by human vessels that seemed to ignore the laws of tactical doctrine. Fighters that should have been easy targets became impossible to hit because they never followed the same pattern twice. Admiral. Colonel Thompson's voice joined the channel. The Empire's reinforcement fleet has arrived. But they're not engaging. Jennifer checked her tactical display. The new Imperial ships hung back, their commanders apparently unwilling to engage an enemy they couldn't predict. The Empire's perfect military machine had encountered something its algorithms couldn't process: genuine uncertainty. Your civilization. Nexus spoke again, his voice carrying a mix of fear and fascination. You thrive on disorder. Every attempt we make to impose order just creates new forms of chaos that you exploit. That's humanity's true strength, Jennifer replied. We don't just accept chaos, we weaponize it. Every Imperial tactic you use against us becomes another tool in our arsenal. Every perfect pattern you follow becomes another weakness we can exploit. She watched as more Imperial ships began breaking formation, their commanders realizing the futility of fighting an enemy that turned unpredictability into an art form. You gave us time to prepare, Jennifer concluded, but you never asked yourselves what we were preparing for. You thought we'd try to match your perfection. Instead, we proved that perfection itself was the fatal flaw in your entire civilization. The Empire's house of cards, their belief in perfect order and predictable warfare, had finally met the one force it could never overcome: humanity's embrace of beautiful chaos. The newly constructed Earth Diplomatic Center gleamed in the morning sun, its architecture a stunning blend of human creativity and Imperial crystalline technology. Dr. Jessica Miller stood at the grand window of the conference room, watching shuttles arrive from across the galaxy. Each one carried representatives eager to witness something unprecedented: humanity's terms of victory. Quite a view, isn't it? Colonel Thompson joined her, his dress uniform adorned with both human medals and Imperial honor crystals. Hard to believe a month ago, they thought we were primitive savages. They made the mistake of measuring progress by uniformity. Jessica replied, turning as Admiral Martinez entered the room. They never understood that diversity could be a strength. The chamber filled with an extraordinary mix of beings. Imperial commanders in their crystalline armor stood alongside Earth's military leaders. Alien scientists whose theories had gone unchallenged for millennia now sat beside human researchers who had revolutionized those same principles in weeks. Supreme Commander Nexus was the last to enter, his perfect features now showing something new: humility. "The terms of Earth's victory have been prepared," he announced, his voice carrying across the chamber. "We await your demands for reparations and territory." Dr. Miller stepped forward, carrying a single data crystal. Its surface was deliberately imperfect, featuring tiny flaws that made it impossible to duplicate, a physical representation of humanity's philosophy. "Commander," she began, "we've prepared something different. Not terms of surrender, but a proposal for partnership." The crystal projected its contents above the conference table. Instead of demands for territory or technology, it showed plans for joint research initiatives, proposals for cultural exchange programs, frameworks for combining imperial precision with human creativity. "We don't want your submission," Colonel Thompson added, watching surprise ripple through the alien delegates. "We want your collaboration. Humanity's strength has never been in conquering. It's been in adapting, in learning, in growing." Admiral Martinez stepped forward, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had led humanity to victory. "Your empire spent millennia perfecting order. We spent our history learning from chaos. Apart, we're both incomplete. Together," she gestured to the projection, where simulations showed the potential of combined human imperial technology. "Impossible," one imperial scientist muttered, but his voice carried wonder rather than dismissal. "These innovations, they combine principles we thought were incompatible." "That's humanity's gift," Jessica explained. "We see connections where others see contradictions. We find harmony in discord. Your perfect order and our creative chaos. Together they can achieve things neither of us could imagine alone." The projection shifted to show new designs. Starships that combined imperial precision with human adaptability. Shield systems that used controlled chaos to become stronger. Weapons that could switch between perfect precision and unpredictable patterns. "Your mistake," Thompson addressed Nexus directly, "wasn't in challenging Earth. It was in assuming that difference meant inferiority. You gave us time to prepare, but you never asked what we were preparing for. We believed," Nexus admitted, "that you would attempt to match our perfection. Instead, you showed us its limitations." Jessica loaded the final part of the presentation, footage from Earth's universities, where imperial youth were already studying alongside human students, pictures of alien tourists marveling at Earth's chaotic beauty, documents showing breakthrough discoveries made by combined research teams. "These are our terms," Admiral Martinez declared. "Not surrender, not subjugation, but synthesis. The Empire brings order to chaos. Humanity brings evolution to perfection. Together, we become something greater than either of us could be alone." The chamber erupted in discussion as delegates realized the implications. This wasn't just peace, it was transformation. A new way of thinking that could revolutionize both civilizations. "There will be resistance," Nexus warned. "Many in the Empire still cling to the old ways." "Of course there will," Jessica smiled. "Change is always chaotic. But that's how growth happens. Perfect systems can only replicate, imperfect ones can evolve." As the delegates began signing the historic agreement, Dr. Miller looked out at the morning sky. The Empire had come to Earth expecting to find primitive savages ready for conquest. Instead, they found teachers who could show them why imperfection, adaptation, and chaos were the greatest gifts the universe had to offer. Humanity had won more than a war. They had proven that the future belonged not to those who pursued perfection, but to those who embraced the perfect imperfection of endless possibility.